Am I the antagonist for kicking my sister out of my house for not complying with my house rules? I, 26 years old female, live in a 2-bedroom apartment and I was living alone for the most part until last month when my younger sister, 23 years old female, started living with me after my parents kicked her out due to her not contributing to the house. She had nowhere else to go and she pretty much begged me to let her stay with me. I said that if she wants to live with me, she needs to follow my house rules. She is in her last year of university, so I said that she didn't need to contribute financially but had to contribute to household chores, something that she didn't do when living with my parents. I am a clean person and I like my house to be neat and tidy. At first, she complied. She kept the kitchen clean, did her assigned chores, and would always clean up after herself. Then recently, around 2 weeks ago, she started slacking. She wouldn't do the dishes on her day, trashed the guest bathroom, messed up the living room by leaving her clothes everywhere, and would not put things away. For example, she made a sandwich and she didn't put away the bread, the vegetables, or the condiments. It was infuriating. I work 5 days a week and I'm exhausted, so I spoke to my sister and told her she needs to help me out by keeping my home clean. She just went, okay. My sister did start cleaning, but it was only after I start nagging and being annoying. I then sat her down and warned her that I will be kicking her out if she starts slacking and turning my apartment into a pigsty. I said this is my house, and she needs to follow my rules if she wants to continue living with me. Fast forward to 2 days ago, I invited my friends over and I told my sister to clean the guest bathroom and the kitchen and just tidy up the living room because my friends were coming over and I was at work. So I wanted the house to be clean when I got home and I would just prepare snacks. Well, my sister didn't do any of that. When I came home, the house looked extremely messy and it was not like that before I left. Dishes in the sink, food on the countertop, blankets in the living room, even the guest bathroom was messy. I lost it. I screamed at my sister and told her to pack her belongings and get out of my home. She cried and begged me to give her another chance and I said no. She had one task and she didn't do one thing. We argued some more until she tearfully agreed to leave. She packed her bags and left. I quickly cleaned my house and had my friends over like normal. My parents are on my side, but my relatives are giving me grief for kicking my sister out, and they called me evil and a control freak. My sister is staying with my aunt, as my parents refuse to let her stay with them. Am I the asshole? While it's certainly frustrating when someone doesn't uphold their end of the deal, kicking your sister out over untidy living conditions might be a tad extreme. However, you did give her numerous warnings and opportunities to rectify the situation. It's a tough call, but maybe next time, rather than evicting a family member, consider temporary exile to the couch of shame. Am I the antagonist for despising my partner's Duck Dynasty beard? My boyfriend and I matched on a dating app in December of 2022. In his pictures, he was clean-shaven or had no longer than an inch of beard hair. Legitimately 30 seconds before I walked into our first date, he texted me word for word, "How do you feel about beards?" To which I replied something along the lines of, "I like them." I walk up to our date and see him standing there with a beard that's like armpit level. I made a comment like, "I didn't know you meant that kind of beard," and he laughed it off. To be honest, I was instantly turned off because I felt both deceived and less attracted. Fast forwarding through the date, we had a great time and really hit it off. On our second date, I asked him about the beard, and he told me he planned on cutting it around May of 2023. I was thinking to myself, okay, I won't tell him I don't like it because it will be gone in a few months. I can do this. But May came and went and the beard was still there. I finally began to allude to not liking it. He told me he'd now cut it in December of 2023. December came and went, and at that point, I started to be more open about the fact that I did not like it. Today the beard is now approaching his belly button. Now, my boyfriend has told me he likes the beard because it makes him more recognizable in his business, which gets him a lot of deals. He hasn't admitted this, but I also know he really likes the attention he gets from the beard. We can't go an hour without someone commenting on it when we're out. However, he takes the comments as compliments, and I see them as people commenting on a spectacle, like, "Wow, look at that guy with 3 heads." I really hate it. My boyfriend is a great guy and so handsome, but it makes him look old and disheveled. Also, for some context, we're an interracial couple with a 13-year age gap. It is to the point where I refuse to introduce him to my family. I live out of my home state, so I have been able to avoid it, but my best friend recently came in town and saw the beard in person, and she was in utter shock. I know that if he has this beard, my dad will not like him, and the age gap will be even more apparent to him. My dad had a very negative reaction to my sister's now husband, who is 10 years older, but looks her age. Of course, my dad's opinion of him should not sway how I feel, but I obviously want him to have a good first impression. Am I the asshole for wanting him to cut it and not wanting to introduce him to my family until he does so? Well, it sounds like you've got a bearded situation on your hands, or rather, on your boyfriend's face. It's a hairy dilemma to say the least. On one hand, your boyfriend's beard seems to be taking on a life of its own and becoming quite the attention magnet. On the other hand, you're not a fan of its length and the vibes it's giving off. In all seriousness, it's completely understandable that you have certain preferences when it comes to physical appearance, especially if it affects your level of attraction towards your partner. However, it's important to communicate your feelings to your boyfriend in a respectful and honest manner. Maybe have a heart-to-heart talk about how the beard makes you feel and see if there's a compromise that can be reached. As for the family introduction dilemma, it's important to remember that your happiness and your relationship with your boyfriend should be the main focus. While family opinions matter to a certain extent, ultimately, it's your decision who you choose to be with. If your dad is as judgy about appearances as you've described, he may not be the best barometer for judging your boyfriend's character. In conclusion, you're not necessarily the asshole for wanting your boyfriend to trim the beard for your own comfort, but remember to approach the situation with empathy and understanding. And if all else fails, there's always the option of giving him a razor as a subtle gift hint. Am I the antagonist for my reaction to a prank by my partner? So I'm a college student, and I live alone in a different place away from everyone close to me. Same goes for my girlfriend, but she lives with her grandparents. On my first day of living there, I bought a 2-month-old kitten so that I don't feel lonely, and she's the sweetest, most loving kitten I've ever seen. She always sleeps with me and follows me everywhere I go, so you can say at this point, she's like my daughter. I also got her before getting in a relationship with my current girlfriend. 6 months later, I had to travel abroad and I had to leave the kitten somewhere, so my girlfriend asked if she can take her until I'm back, and I of course loved the idea so much and was happy she would stay with her. One day she texted me saying that she wants to take her forever and will just get me another cat. At first I thought she was just messing around until I kept asking whether she's joking or not, and she kept saying no. Then she kept saying no. Then she said, either take her or we're over, so you have to choose between her and me. I called her because all of that was on text and asked her again if it's just a joke or not. She said no, and she sounded so serious. I got so tensed up because I couldn't believe she is willing to end our relationship because of a cat, and I thought to myself maybe she's looking for a way to just get out. Anyway, I told her you know how much I love my kitten and how she's the only company I have, and I don't want to replace her with any other cat. Told her I got her as a little kitten, and she grew up with me and I sounded really sad saying that. Note that I still didn't choose anything, and I sounded really sad saying that. Note that I still didn't choose anything. She then started laughing after talking in a very serious tone and told me it was all just a prank and her mom and sister were on it too, and were laughing in the background. I felt so embarrassed and hurt at the same time. I didn't like the prank, so I was a bit silent and told her that was not funny. She then said I'm annoying for not being able to take a joke and I need to chill. She then started talking about how I'm not willing to do anything for her and everything I said was just empty words and that I failed the test. She said she's a bit disappointed in me and that my reaction showed that I'd choose the cat. She then started acting and texting me in a very dry way. I felt horrible after all that and hated myself for what I did and felt like I did her wrong and apologized to her. Am I the asshole for my reaction, and do I deserve how she acted after the prank? It seems like you were put in quite a predicament with your girlfriend's prank. While humor can be a good way to lighten the mood, it's essential to understand where the line is drawn, especially when emotions are involved. Your attachment to your kitten is understandable, as pets can become an integral part of our lives. Your girlfriend's prank may have crossed a boundary for you, given the significance of your kitten to you. It's valid to feel hurt and confused by her actions, as relationships thrive on trust and respect. It's a learning experience for both of you on how to communicate and understand each other's boundaries. Her reaction after the prank, making you feel guilty and questioning your commitment, may have been unwarranted considering the circumstances. It's essential to have open and honest conversations about your feelings and boundaries moving forward. Relationships require mutual respect and understanding, and it's okay to express your emotions and set boundaries when needed. Am I the antagonist for not giving my cousin my Crumbl cookie? This is going to sound dumb, but I, 16 years old female, have been craving Crumbl cookie all week, and they had my favorite flavor on the menu, pink sugar cookie. I drove to Crumbl and got a single cookie for myself. When I came home from Crumbl, I ate half of the cookie and left the other half on the counter. The next day, my aunt came over with my cousin, 9 years old male. He saw my cookie on the table and asked me if he could have it. I told him no, and explained to him that I had been wanting the cookie all week. He whined and said, "But cookies are my favorite food." I just said sorry and told him that the next time he comes over, we could bake cookies together. He was not satisfied with my answer and ran to my aunt crying. My aunt said to just let him eat it, and she will rebuy me the cookie some other time. The thing is, it was Sunday, and if you know about Crumbl, they change their menu every week, and pink sugar has not been on the menu in ages. So this plan was not going to work. I told my aunt this and she said, "He is only 9 and you're 16. You can sacrifice a cookie for a small child." My cousin looked at my aunt again. I once again said no. My aunt just glared at me, turned, looked over at my little cousin and said, "Go ahead." My cousin ran over to my cookie. I rushed to get it before him, but he picked it up first. Since he was milliseconds away from biting the cookie, I pushed the cookie out of his hands and he started crying. As he was bending down to pick it up off of the floor to still eat it, I stomped on it, causing it to mush everywhere. My cousin cried, so my aunt started to yell at me, calling me immature and that I should learn how to sacrifice things for family and children, and how giving him the cookie would not have hurt me. She then said, "How do you feel now that you are wasting your money from nobody eating it?" I then told her I would have felt like my money was wasted either way since I bought the cookie for myself and didn't get to eat it. This threw her over the edge and then immediately complained to my dad. My dad is on my side, but my mom thinks I should have just given him the cookie. I can admit stomping on the cookie was an overreaction, but why would my cousin be entitled to the cookie I paid for just because we both want it? So, am I the asshole? In all seriousness, it seems like you were put in a tough cookie situation here. Your aunt's insistence on giving your cousin the last morsel of your coveted Crumbl cookie, coupled with his persistence, definitely added some flavor to the conflict. While stomping on the cookie may have crumbled the situation further, it's understandable that you wanted to enjoy the treat you worked hard to get. Just remember that sometimes in the recipe of family dynamics, a pinch of compromise can go a long way. It's okay to stand your ground, but perhaps next time, try to find a sweeter solution that leaves everyone with a smile on their face. In this case, maybe a compromise like sharing the cookie or planning a baking session together could have saved you from being the one stuck in the sticky situation. Just like a well-baked cookie, finding the right balance can make for a tastier outcome for all parties involved. Am I the antagonist for going on a trip with my siblings after just moving in with my boyfriend? I, 30 female, drove from Salt Lake City to St. Louis to live with my long-distance relationship boyfriend, 32 male. Let's call him Paul. My siblings came with me on the long drive with my U-Haul. By the way, Paul did not help me with any planning, or offer to help me move, nor has he met any of my siblings. He just wanted me to pack my car, but I had a fully furnished apartment, and I wanted to keep as much stuff as possible. While planning the move, my siblings and I wanted to go to Nashville for a couple of days. Paul didn't want to go with us. He argued that we as a couple need to save money since I want work for a couple of weeks. I told him I saved enough for this trip and he let the issue go. We got to St. Louis, and my siblings and I visited some attractions. Paul didn't want to come. We got home late and Paul got visibly irritated and ignored me that night. The morning we leave for Nashville, Paul tells me that we needed to talk when I get back. I suggested we talk right then, because not knowing what he was mad about would ruin my mood the whole day. He ignored my pleas, and we go and start driving to Nashville. He immediately started texting me how angry he was I left, saying that I went against what we had agreed on, and that I should be unpacking my stuff right now. I said it was only for a couple of days and I'll have 2 weeks to unpack. He blasted my phone the whole drive, saying, "This whole situation is making me uncomfortable." I even told my siblings to turn around to take me back. My siblings reassured me it would be okay if I still went with them. Then he starts to compare me to his ex-girlfriend, saying I was just like her. Some background on this. His last girlfriend's family didn't like him and was part of the reason she broke up with him. He thinks that this was the same situation. He starts showing me his bleeding ear and how his body is reacting to what I am doing to him. There was a point he screamed at me on the phone that was connected to the car, and everyone heard him. They said if I didn't want to live with him anymore, they'd happily help me move back to Utah. I thought about it because I didn't like how Paul was acting. I told him I was having second thoughts, and he thinks my siblings are to blame. He changed the locks and does not trust my siblings to be at his place. But I reassured him I would come back, but he didn't believe me. We come back when he was at work. I go in and get the rest of my siblings' stuff and book them a hotel for the rest of their stay. He has a camera by the entrance. He wouldn't even let them in to use the restroom. I thought we would have a discussion about this, but he said there was nothing to talk about. Seems like he just wanted me to come back to St. Louis and for my siblings to leave. He told me that his actions were valid, and he even asked his friends, and they think I am the jerk for not staying and unpacking my stuff. So the question is, am I the jerk here? Let's break it down, shall we? So, you made the epic journey from Salt Lake City to St. Louis with your trusty U-Haul and your siblings in tow, all to start a new chapter with Paul, your long-distance BO. But plot twist, Paul seemed to be more Mia than MVP in the whole moving saga. No planning, no helping, and not even bothering to meet your siblings? Oh, Paul! Then comes the Nashville escapade. You and your siblings were all set for a mini vacay, but Paul put the kibosh on joining, citing budget worries. You saved up for this, you claim. To Nashville you went, basking in the sights while Paul stewed in St. Louis, like a fine wine reaching peak bitterness. The tension hits its peak during the road trip to Nashville, with Paul spewing texts about breaking agreements, unpacking urgency, and comparisons to exes. And let's not forget the dramatic ear-bleeding saga, a true soap opera moment. Things hit a breaking point when Paul changes the locks, distrusts your siblings, and turns your return into a silent movie screening. The final curtain call? Paul firmly plants the blame on you, while his pals join the chorus of disapproval. In the end, you, my dear Up, are not the jerk here. You're the unsuspecting star of a rom-com turned nightmare. Paul's actions? Sending off more red flags than a communist parade. It's time to grab your siblings, load up that U-Haul, and hightail it back to Utah. Let Paul marinate in his questionable life choices while you embrace your newfound freedom, and maybe rethink your taste in partners. Am I the antagonist for being selfish and not sharing my card? I'm 15 years old, female, and my uncle, 28 years old, male, have discussed me taking the next step into responsibility in adulthood by creating me a Cash App account. I ordered my card and all that stuff, just for my uncle to inform me that he'd be giving my sister $20 to put into my account. I didn't truly mind this considering I love my sister and would hope he'd give her money as well. However, since I ordered the card, she has continuously made comments on how it's her money and how we share the card, when that isn't the case. It's my card, it has my name on it. I have continued to remind her that it is my card, even if she has money on it. My mother, 33 years old, female, has sided with her and said that I shouldn't fight with her over it because she is playing around and isn't serious. I reminded her that I cannot read social cues, and that it's fairly frustrating to me when she claims this, as it is my card, and I shouldn't feel obligated to share it just because she has family. Today I finally got my card after a little while of waiting. My mom messages the group chat with me and my sister, with pictures of the card saying that our card was here, and joking that she would spend it. Although it was a joke, I again reminded her that it was my card, and needed to be activated by me. After spending the weekend at my father's, my mother picked me and my sisters up and took us to her house, where I then activated the card and all that stuff. I was talking with my stepdad and my sister when she promptly paused and held her hand out for the card, claiming it was hers as well, and that she demanded to know the PIN so she could use it. Now, normally I wouldn't care much to give out my PINs, however, this card is really important to me and I wish to keep it private. I was quite harsh with my words, saying that if she wanted to buy something, I'd be there with her to input the PIN and such because it's my card and I don't want her knowing the PIN. I redirected her and told her to make her own Cash App account so I could send her the money and she could use it herself. A few hours go by and I walk into my parents' room like normal to chat and hang out. My mom decided to scold me and tell me that I was being inconsiderate and rude to my sister because the card had her money on it too. She proceeded to explain that this is the exact reason she didn't want me to have the card in the first place, which she never expressed beforehand. She was seemingly all aboard, even happy for me. I tried to tell her the importance of the card and what it meant for me, but like always, she interrupted and mocked the very bad retelling of what I had said. So am I the asshole? Am I the antagonist? In this situation, it seems like there might be some misunderstandings and miscommunications happening within your family. It's completely understandable that you want to have ownership over something like your own Cash App card, especially since you put in the effort to order it and activate it. Your sister jokingly claiming the card is hers and trying to get the PIN might be her way of lightheartedly teasing you, but it's important for boundaries to be respected. Your mom's reaction could be coming from a place of wanting to promote harmony among her children, but it's also important for her to understand and acknowledge your perspective on the situation. It's okay for you to stand your ground and communicate your feelings about the importance of your card to you. In the end, it's crucial for all parties involved to have a respectful conversation to clear up any misunderstandings and ensure that everyone's boundaries and feelings are being considered. It's not about being an asshole, but about establishing healthy communication and mutual respect within the family. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.